So while we were doing the 24-hour live stream, Curtis hopped in and not really asked, but mentioned if there was a general feedback video for season 5 to send it to him so that he could watch. And you know what we do when Curtis asks something, we better do it. So here is a season 5 changes list and kind of my thoughts on everything in kind of a feedback form. And we're going to do this on kind of like a grade system similar to the tier list that we do. So the first kind of like big thing that opens up with is the town/coven outlier alignment. This is where you get your catalyst, your cultist, your pilgrim, and your covenite. I'm going to give this one a B. I like the idea of like, here is some very out there roles. They're not going to spawn normally, but you have the ability for them to spawn. I think you can do some really cool things with some more like cooler roles in the future to add to outliers. And I think Cursed Soul and Vampire end up being like neutral outliers, is how it kind of works. And so I give it a B. It's a really good idea. It sets you up for a lot of things in the future. I think you should use those icons for them, though. Just saying, I took them from the BTS2 press kit. Next, speaking of Catalyst and Cultist, I'm going to give Catalyst and Cultist A-minuses. Really cool additions, even though you're not going to see them in all any, but we'll get to a reason why I'm okay with that here a little later on. Catalyst, the ability to overcharge and have someone double visit. I think once it gets documented properly, I think that's going to be a really cool role to mess around with. And then Cultist just being able to take someone changes the dynamic so much of day 2. For better or worse, but definitely 2 awesome roles to add. I'd give it an A-. Nothing really to knock at. Very good. I'm going to give Pilgrim and Covenite D+. They are necessary to add because I don't know how many people have asked, oh, we want more social deduction in our social deduction game. I think actually I think the hat should be the Pilgrim icon, but I test. But in most, you're not going to get them in normal games unless you have it in custom games, which is kind of what it was designed to do. And so I'm pretty okay with that. I would love to see some more game modes with Pilgrim and Covenite in there. I'm going to give the best thing that was added in Season 5 and S+, and that is casual mode. That is something like, ever since it was implemented in BTS2, it was a really awesome addition to BTS2, and I know that Curtis has talked about, I want to try and get this into vanilla. And he did, and it works so well. I mean, I've swapped from all any. The only time I play all any now is A, if an event's going on, and we'll get to that in a second, and B, if someone else in the party chooses all any. I think casual mode is the right way to play. It still does not address beginner stuff, but for the normal player, I think casual mode is the best way to play. It's going to get a big S+. I can't wait to see all the new game modes. I can't wait to create my own for videos. I just noticed the music's about ready to end. We're going to see if it switches or if it loops. One of the best additions since Digital Banditos has taken over. Hands down, period. We're going to give dual buckets C-. Good for makers of game modes. Turns kind of the game into a puzzle, like, oh, who are you? Are you this? Are you this bucket? We did a custom game in the live stream, 24-hour live stream, where Kaz, aka Lore Master, had like, it was like 13 of the 15 were buckets. That was such a confusing game. But you could make that work pretty good. And so I like the idea. It's just, you gotta get used to it. And I think more time people do better implementations of it. I know, like, one of the game modes in casual has Jailer and Marshal as a bucket, and I like that spot. We're going to give Election Modifier a D-. It's probably my least favorite thing in the Season 5. And maybe it's just because it's not explained very well. And the game's already hectic enough for election to be in there. Oh, you gotta elect this person, and then they have votes. And a more streamlined way to do it would be cool. I just know that I got one election game, and I played probably, when election was an option, I probably played like 100, 125 hours of Town of Salem 2 in that time period, and I got one election game, and I begged for it. Similarly, we're going to give Grace Period a D+. It's not that Grace Period's bad, because I like having to extend the game so more roles can do things and not get killed. There are, though, several roles that get screwed over by Grace Period, so like Coroner, Retributionist, technically Necromancer, but they can just give Necromancer the book. There are several roles that it slows, they can't do anything, and so maybe that's just a little change in the role. Trickster's another one that, but we'll talk that in a separate video, my thoughts on Trickster and Grace Period. I do like that they mentioned that, or they changed, so like originally I was going to have a deal where I was going to say you need to change it to where it tells everyone that Grace Period is happening. I don't know how many times I would see fake TP claims claiming that they healed someone night 1. They were during Grace Period. Now everyone knows that Grace Period's happening. I'm going to give the Mafia pack a B-. Cool throwback. A lot of really cool decorations and skins. Yeah, very solid. The Mafia pack being able to be bought directly on Steam, however, is a big A. I wish that they would do that for all the kind of like shopping DLC. I wish you could do that with the main game. That would be like one of my biggest pushes, and if it's not a thing by the time we get to 2026, that's going to be in the open letter of, I think you should just be able to buy the game on Steam. I think like pay the $5. You can, here's your free trial, you get your 5 keys and whatnot every 8 hours or so, whatever. But if you just want to buy the $5 game, you should be able to buy it directly on Steam. And any subsequential packs and whatnot. The Admirer changes, I'm going to give a C-. It does make Admirer better. It's still very easily fake claimable. Trying to find your obsession is difficult. Trying to find your obsession is difficult. And I have another video when we talk about the Trickster changes. I have another video of ways to maybe address that. So it is better. It's still F tier though, I think. Maybe D tier. I'm gonna give Vampire a B tier. I talked about in one of my previous videos, I think in my open letter last year, that adding B2S2 Vampire would be a really good addition. And it is. Like, exactly what I asked for. It was implemented. I can't wait to see the other fun vampire-esque game modes that they add. I know we've had, Blood and something. We've had, obviously, Dracula's Palace. I can't wait to see what other vampire-y stuff they do. Similarly, Cursed Souls gets a B+, because it's just like Better TOS2, Cursed Souls, which is exactly what I wanted. There's a couple of small things I would like the 50-50 is just finicky, but you don't want to directly be able to do it every time. And so I get that. Maybe if you don't get the person who you selected, it lets you know that you randomly chose and versus who you targeted. I think that's maybe a better way of handling it. I don't know, but I also liked Cursed Souls and Vampire, and when we get to Cultist and Doctrine a lot, because it has screwed up a lot of TI stuff. Because you might say that, you know, these two people are friends, but what happens if this person got Cursed Souls into this person, and what happens if, you know, this person gets indoctrined, and this happens to be Vampire now? I think that's a really cool... It nerfs TI claims like Seer. Seer's the big one. Psychic. It nerfs those claims without changing what they do. It makes other roles better. Astral Visits bypassing Jailer gets a big fat A. So this can be X-Master killing someone in jail. This can be Shroud. No, not Shroud. This can be Ritualist, which I think already was a thing. This can be Admirer and Oracle, which were, I think, already a things. And with Admirer, you can bestow someone. Just don't bestow the Coven. So I think a really good ad for Astral Visit to bypass jail. Coven not having death notes is a big A+. We talked about in the open letter about just no death notes or making it a modifier. I think allowing the neutrals to have death notes makes it fun. And Coven doesn't need to be outing neutrals more than they normally do. Socialite changes get a B+ from me. It makes Socialite less loud, which is something we talked about again in that open letter. And so I'm very happy with the changes. The one thing that I might change is if you've already, and I talked about this with Starspawn when we were big into B2S2. If you've already had one unknown obstacle on you, like you hit one party, you are immune to the next party. And you can even say there was a party at your target last night, but you ignored it. I think that's the one Socialite change I would want. And that would make the change to probably an A. The game guides, which is something that we talked about also in that open letter, is at a B-. It's definitely so much better than what they had. We're in a good spot for it. There's just some tweaking and whatnot, and that just comes with time. You know, they just implemented this whole game guides thing at once. And so they'll do some tweaks to it and fix some things and rephrase something. I'd like to see a new player read that and see what their thoughts are and how they perceive things. The second highest thing I have, and I think it's the last thing on my list here, I'm going to double check, is rotating all Ennies. So one of the coolest things that Curtis and Tuba did in Better TOS2, and then they did it for regular TOS2, was the April Fool's event. Well, now we get like little mini events every 2 weeks with a different all any, which I think is fantastic. Like we've had True All Any, we've had All Any Fools, with like the Feeling Lucky. There's a third one that's coming. I really like that. Whole bunches of stuff. I like it so much. It gives all any a little fresh look, and like those games are super fun to play. And it's not constant, so it's not like people are getting like, we're not going to get all any fools again until like middle of August. If that, maybe at the beginning of September? I don't know how my math works. No, it's going to be the middle of September because it's every 2 weeks. And so it was just this past weekend as of me recording this. And so 1, 2, 3. So yeah, it's not going to be till the end of September. Really good way about kind of doing events, and you can like plan for future events. That is all for the kind of recap feedback of Season 5. If there's other things that get added in between me recording this, which is August 6th, Season 5 is not officially launched yet, but if there's things between now and then, I'll either A, add them to the video, essentially, or B, maybe I'll put my my thoughts down in the comments. But overall, awesome update from Curtis and Tuba. I mean, so many B's and A's, and just some small things, and I can't wait to see what else they had. That's all for me. We'll catch you again for another video.